Everyone knew Ramesh, but no one really saw him. He walked the halls of Kaur Enterprises every day in his green uniform, carrying a mop and a bucket. He cleaned the floor, emptied the trash, and quietly moved from one corner to another like a shadow. People stepped around him. Some never even looked at his face. To them, he was just the janitor. But Ramesh noticed everything, every word, every whisper. Every meeting room that should have been locked, but wasn't, and every time someone in a suit said something they shouldn't have. That morning, the building buzzed with tension. Mrs. Carr, the company's owner, had returned after 6 months. She was the widow of Mr. Harsh Kaur, the founder. People said she was kind but distant, quiet but powerful. After her husband's sudden death, she had disappeared until now, and now she had called for an emergency board meeting. Everyone important was rushing to the top floor: directors, executives, lawyers. Even the CEO, Mr. Dev Mehra, looked nervous. But then something strange happened. As Ramesh was wiping the glass door, Mrs. Kaur walked by with her assistant. She stopped, looked at him. "Mr. Ramesh?" she said softly. He straightened. "Yes, ma'am. I'd like you to join the meeting." The assistant froze. Ramesh looked confused. "Ma'am, I think you mean someone else. I'm the janitor." "No," she said clearly. "I meant you." Silence. Her assistant opened his mouth to speak, but stopped when Mrs. Kaur raised her hand. She turned and walked toward the elevator. Ramesh looked around. People stared, some laughed, others whispered. "Is she serious? A janitor? In a board meeting? This has to be a joke." But it wasn't. The boardroom was large and cold. A long glass table sat in the middle, surrounded by leather chairs. One by one, the top people entered, looking proud, polished, powerful. Then Ramesh entered, in his green uniform, holding nothing but his hands behind his back. Every face turned. Some smiled politely, most frowned. What is he doing here? He's going to mop the boardroom? Mrs. Kaur sat at the head of the table. She looked at no one but Ramesh. "Please sit beside me," she said. He nodded and sat down. His chair made a small sound. No one else spoke. Finally, the CEO cleared his throat. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but this is highly unusual. This man, he's not staff for meetings." Mrs. Kaur looked straight at him. "I know who he is." The CEO smiled awkwardly. "With respect, may I ask, why is he here?" She paused, then said softly, "Because he's the only one in this room I trust." Silence. Some gasped. The CFO blinked. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Carr opened a folder in front of her. Inside were papers, lots of them, printed emails, photocopies, security logs, but no one could see them clearly yet. Then she said, "I came back to clean my house, one." Director chuckled nervously. "But your house is spotless." "No," she said, turning to look at all of them. "This house, this company is full of dirt." Now the room wasn't quiet. It was tense. "What dirt?" the CEO asked carefully. Mrs. Kaur looked at Ramesh and then said something that made every person in that room freeze. "Mr. Ramesh has been cleaning your mess for months." She opened the folder. "He knows what you've done. He saw what others missed. And today, he will speak." Ramesh looked down for a second, then slowly stood up. His voice was calm. "I never wanted to be in this room," he said. "I just wanted to do my job, but I kept seeing things, wrong things." He pointed to a folder. "I saw fake bills signed by directors. I saw deliveries that never arrived. And I saw who approved them." He looked around the table. "And I have proof. Every." Eye widened, some faces turned red, others pale. The janitor had been watching them, and now he was about to reveal everything. The room was heavy with silence. No one moved. No one spoke. Ramesh stood by the table holding a small folder. Inside were papers, photos, and notes he had secretly collected over many months. Mrs. Kaur watched him quietly. The board members shifted nervously in their seats. Ramesh took a deep breath. "I know many of you think I am just a janitor," he said softly. "But I have seen what happens behind these walls." He opened the folder and showed a paper. "This is a fake invoice. It says the company paid a supplier for goods that were never delivered, but the money went somewhere else." He looked directly at Mr. Dev Mehra, the CEO. "Dev, you approved this." Dev's face turned pale. He looked away. Ramesh continued, "I found many such papers. All signed, all approved by the same people who say they care about this company." He paused. "Some of you steal from Mrs. Kaur's company. You hide money. You cheat. You lie." The room buzzed with whispers. One director whispered to another, "Is this true?" Mrs. Kaur raised her hand for silence. Ramesh took out his phone. "I also have recordings." He played a short clip. Voices were heard, whispering about moving money and covering tracks. The faces of the men in the room changed. They knew the voices. Some looked angry, others looked scared. Mrs. Kaur spoke again. "Ramesh has been brave to bring this truth. I have been away, but now I am back to fight." She stood tall. "This company will not belong to thieves." Ramesh looked around. "I am not here to fight you with anger," he said. "I am here to stop the damage, to protect the people who work honestly." Suddenly a man stood up. "Who are you to accuse us? You're just a janitor." Ramesh smiled softly. "A janitor who listened, a janitor who watched, and a janitor who saved this company before." The room went quiet. No one understood what he meant. Mrs. Kaur nodded at Ramesh. "Tell them, Ramesh." He took a deep breath. "Months ago, when I was cleaning the parking lot, I saw Mr. Singh, one of the directors, with a man outside. They were counting money. When I tried to stop them, they threatened me." He paused. "But I did not stay quiet. I recorded their meeting. I saved the evidence, because this company means more than money to me." The board members looked shocked. Mr. Singh sat down, sweating. Mrs. Kaur looked proud. "This is only the beginning," she said. "Today, truth will win." Ramesh folded his papers carefully. "I am ready to answer any questions." The CEO looked nervous but spoke. "We will need proof. This is serious." Ramesh nodded. "I have it all." He looked at Mrs. Kaur. "Will you stand with me?" She smiled. "Always." The room filled with tension. The battle for the company had begun, and the quiet janitor was no longer invisible. The room was silent after Ramesh's words. Everyone waited for what would come next. Mrs. Kaur looked at the board members, her eyes sharp and full of strength. "This is not just about money," she said. "It is about trust, honesty, and respect. Things that have been lost here." Ramesh sat down, but his eyes did not leave the faces in front of him. He knew some were angry, others were scared, but one thing was clear. The truth was coming out. Mr. Singh cleared his throat. "This is a serious accusation," he said, voice shaky. "If you want to accuse me, you must show proof." Ramesh nodded. "I have recordings, documents, and witnesses." He looked at the CEO, Mr. Dev Mehra. "You approved fake payments. You ignored warnings." Dev tried to stay calm. "That is not true." Ramesh pulled out his phone and played another recording. This time, it was a conversation between Dev and another director, planning to cover up missing money. Everyone gasped. Mrs. Kaur raised her hand again. "Enough lies." She stood up. "I want a full investigation, starting today." Ramesh felt a wave of relief. At last, someone believed him, but not everyone was happy. Suddenly, the CFO, a man named Mr. Rao, spoke. "This is an attack on the company's reputation. We must be careful." Mrs. Kaur looked at him with disappointment. "Are you protecting thieves?" she asked. "No," Rao said quickly. "But we cannot rush." Ramesh stood up. "We cannot wait." People are losing jobs. Families are suffering. This must stop. His voice was firm. Mrs. Kaur nodded. I agree. Ramesh, you will help lead the investigation. Everyone turned to look at Ramesh. He was shocked, but nodded. He never wanted power. He just wanted the truth. The meeting ended with mixed feelings. Some whispered that Ramesh was brave, others said he was dangerous. But one thing was clear. The company was about to change. As Ramesh left the room, Mrs. Kaur called him. Good job, she said softly. Ramesh smiled. I only hope I can do more. Mrs. Kaur looked at him with respect. You will. Outside the building, the sun was setting. Ramesh walked alone. He knew this was just the start. There were many secrets still hidden, and many people who wanted those secrets to stay safe. The next morning, the news had spread. Janitor exposes corruption at Car Enterprises. Shocking evidence revealed by a silent worker. Everyone was talking about Ramesh. Some called him a hero, others called him a liar. But Ramesh didn't care about fame. He only cared about the truth. Inside the company, the atmosphere had changed. People looked at Ramesh with surprise and fear. Some smiled at him for the first time. Others looked away, ashamed. Mrs. Kaur had ordered an internal investigation, and Ramesh was now in charge of it, a janitor leading a team of managers. It had never happened before, but the enemies were not sleeping. That evening, Ramesh's small apartment was broken into. Papers were scattered, a drawer was broken. His phone was missing. Ramesh rushed to check his bag. His backup USB drive was still safe. He knew who had done it, and he knew they were afraid. The next day, during another meeting, Mrs. Kaur asked him to speak again. Ramesh stood before the board with a calm face, but fire in his voice. I have already sent copies of the documents to the legal department, he said. Even if something happens to me, the truth won't stop. The directors were silent. Then Dev, the CEO, finally broke. This is getting out of hand. He is ruining our name. Mrs. Kaur looked at Dev. You already ruined it. He's just cleaning it now. Late at night, while the city slept, the lights on the top floor of Car Enterprises were still on. Ramesh stood near the window, staring at the stars. His eyes were tired, but his mind was clear. So much had changed in just a few days. He had exposed lies, faced threats, and now carried the weight of something bigger than himself. But the truth was still incomplete. There was one last piece missing. Mrs. Kaur entered the room quietly. She handed him a cup of tea. You haven't rested, she said. I will, he replied. After this is over. She sat down beside him. You've done more for this company than all those men combined. Ramesh shook his head. There's still something wrong. I feel it. Mrs. Kaur nodded slowly. I know. The next morning, Ramesh received a message on his locker. No name, just a time. Parking level B3, 11:45 a.m., come alone. He knew it was dangerous, but he also knew the truth always hides in the dark. At 11:45 sharp, Ramesh walked into the underground parking. It was quiet, too quiet. Then from the shadows, a man stepped forward. It was Rajat, an old security guard who had disappeared months ago. Ramesh, he whispered, they're planning something worse. Ramesh narrowed his eyes. What do you mean? They're trying to take over the company's shares illegally before Mrs. Kaur can stop them. Ramesh listened closely. They've forged her late husband's signature. They want to claim he had promised them his shares before he died. Ramesh's heart dropped. That's a lie. Rajat nodded. Yes, but they have the fake documents, and tomorrow they will present them to the board. Ramesh knew what he had to do. He asked, Do you have proof? Rajat handed him a flash. Drive. I saved it. But if they find out I gave it to you, they'll ruin my life. I won't let that happen, Ramesh said. That night, Ramesh and Mrs. Kaur sat together watching the video on the flash drive. It showed Dev and Mr. Singh talking to a man with a forged signature. Everything was recorded, every lie, every plan. Mrs. Kaur covered her mouth. My husband would never do this. They are trying to erase his name. Ramesh placed the flash drive in an envelope. Tomorrow, they'll try to cheat you in front of everyone. But tomorrow, they'll fail. Outside, the night was dark, but inside, justice was getting ready to shine. The battle was almost over, and Ramesh was ready for the final strike. The next morning, the boardroom was full. Every chair was taken. Every eye was watching. This was the final meeting, the one where Dev and Mr. Singh would try to take full control of Kaur Enterprises using the forged papers. They sat confidently, dressed in suits, pretending to be calm. Mrs. Kaur entered quietly, followed by Ramesh. But this time, Ramesh was not wearing his green janitor's uniform. He wore a simple, clean shirt and carried a folder in one hand. Heads turned. People whispered, "Why is he here again?" But Mrs. Kaur said just one sentence. "He's here for the truth." Mr. Singh stood up first. He held out a file. "Before anything begins, I'd like to present new documents, proof that Mr. Kaur had agreed to give us 30% of his shares." Passed it around the table. Some people nodded. Others looked confused. Dev added quickly, "This was signed before his passing. It's legal. It changes everything." Mrs. Kaur looked at the paper, then looked at Ramesh. He stepped forward. With calm hands, he opened his folder and pulled out the flash drive. "Please connect this to the screen," he said. The assistant plugged it in. A video appeared. Everyone watched as the screen showed Dev, Singh, and a third man sitting in a dark office. Their voices were clear. They talked about faking signatures, creating false papers, and lying to the board. Gasps filled the room. Dev's smile disappeared. Mr. Singh stood frozen. "This is fake!" Singh shouted. "No," Mrs. Kaur said. "It's real, and I know it's real, because the voice in that video said something only my husband and I knew." She turned to the board. "They tried to steal what my husband built with his heart. But the man they ignored, Ramesh, protected it." The head of the legal team stood up. "We will begin an immediate investigation. The shares stay with the Kaur family. Dev Mehra and Mr. Singh, you are suspended." Security entered the room. The two men tried to protest, but no one listened now. Justice had finally spoken, and it had spoken through a janitor. After the meeting, the staff clapped for Ramesh in the hallway. Many had never spoken to him before. Now they looked at him with respect. "You saved us," one employee said. "You saved her," another whispered. Ramesh smiled gently. "I just did what was right." Mrs. Kaur met him in her office. "You've changed this company," she said. "And you've changed me." He looked down. "I never thought I'd be anything more than a cleaner." She handed him a letter. It was a job offer, head of integrity and internal affairs. Ramesh looked at her in shock. "But I have no degree." "You have something more important," she said. "A clean heart." The storm had passed. The lies were gone. And the quiet man who once mopped the floors was now standing taller than anyone else. Weeks had passed since the truth was revealed. Kaur Enterprises was now a different place. The air felt lighter. The workers smiled more. The fear was gone. And in the middle of it all stood Ramesh, the man no one noticed before, now respected by all. He walked through the building, not with a mop, but with a badge on his chest that read, Head of Internal Affairs. Some still found it hard to believe. Wasn't he just a janitor? Yes, and now he's our leader for honesty. Mrs. Kaur invited the entire staff for a special meeting. The hall was full. She stood on stage with Ramesh by her side. "Today," she said, "we celebrate not just a victory over lies, but a victory of truth, courage, and dignity." People clapped. Then she looked at Ramesh. "He reminded us that power doesn't always wear a suit." Sometimes it wears a uniform and works in silence. Ramesh stepped forward, holding the mic. "I never thought I'd stand here," he said, his voice soft but strong. "All I ever wanted was to do my job right. But when I saw wrong things happening, I couldn't stay silent." He looked around the room. Each of us has the power to protect what's good. No job is small. No voice is too weak. The room gave him a standing ovation. Even the people who once ignored him now clapped with pride. After the meeting, Ramesh went to the janitor's room one last time. He looked at his old mop, his locker, his green shirt. He smiled and whispered, "Thank you. You were part of my journey." Then he closed the locker gently and walked away. Outside the building, Mrs. Cower waited with her car. "Ready for your first big day?" she asked. Ramesh nodded. "I was ready the day no one saw me." But I still saw everything. They drove off side by side, not as boss and worker, but as two people who had fought for the same truth. The company moved forward, the people worked harder, and somewhere deep in every corner of Cower Enterprises, a quiet lesson lived on. Never underestimate the one you ignore. They might be the one who saves you.